We're all familiar now with matter, and we understand that matter are made of atoms. All matter is made of atoms. And so today we want to talk a little bit about the atom. Back in 200 BC, the fellow you're looking at here by the name of Democritus was a Greek philosopher. Democritus had an idea, pretty enlightened idea for 200 BC. He felt like that all matter was dividable to a point, and then it was no longer dividable, that it was made of these tiny particles, and he called these particles atomos. And atomos in Greek means uncuttable. So Democritus thought, basically, that if you took any object, for example, a pear, and my artwork's not very good here, but we've got a little pear here, and this pear, he thought that if you took a knife and you began cutting it, that eventually you would reach a point where you would come to a piece that was no longer cuttable. Again, he called that atomos. Now, that was in 200 BC, as I said, and there were no scientists, and there wasn't science as such. But over the past couple of hundred years, scientists have come up again with the idea that everything is made of atoms, and we have identified the atoms, and we can see those on the periodic table as elements. And we have discovered that atoms are made of things called subatomic particles. We want to talk today about the subatomic particles of the atom. So the atom is made up of 3 subatomic particles. 2 of those particles are found in what is known as the nucleus of the atom. And what we see here in this picture is an idea of what the nucleus of the atom may be like. In the nucleus we have protons, which are in red here, and protons have a positive charge, and we also have neutrons. The neutrons, shown here in blue, neutrons have a neutral charge. Okay, so protons have a positive charge, they're positive, and neutrons are neutral, they have no charge. So we often will use a 0 to indicate that it's neutral. Again, the protons and the neutrons of the atom are found in the nucleus. Now, as we know, matter is anything that has mass and volume. So an atom has both mass and it has volume. Let's talk about the mass of the atom right now. The mass of the atom is made up of the things in the nucleus. In other words, it's made up of protons and neutrons. And each proton has a mass of what we call 1 atomic mass unit. Atomic, I guess there's a T in there, isn't there? Atomic mass unit. And 1 neutron also has 1 atomic mass unit. Now, atomic mass units are often called, and you'll hear me say this many times this year, AMUs. Okay? So, let's say an atom has 3 protons and 4 neutrons. Well, each of those protons has 3 protons and it has 4 neutrons. So each of those protons has 1 atomic mass unit, and each of those neutrons has 1 atomic mass unit. So that is a total of 7 AMUs. Now, as I just mentioned, the protons have a positive charge. So each of these protons in here has a positive charge. Most of you have played with magnets before, and if you take the positive charge, or the positive end of 2 magnets and try to put them together, they push apart from each other. They do not go together because positives do not attract. A positive is attracted to a negative, and not another positive. So it seems like that the nucleus of an atom should fly apart because it's full of all these positive protons, and of course the neutrons are just neutral, so they really don't have anything to. They're not attracted to the protons in any way. So what holds the nucleus together? What holds the atom together? Well, there's a force in nature. It's in fact the strongest force in nature. And this force is what holds the atom together. It's called the nuclear force. The nuclear force, like I said, is the strongest force in nature. Now, Democritus, remember, said that you could come to a point in that it was no longer dividable. Well, we know now that's not totally true. An atom can be divided, but we're going to save that for your chemistry class. So you can look forward to that in high school to understand how that can happen. And that brings us to the last subatomic particle that we'll be interested in this year, and that's the electron. The electron is not found in the nucleus. If you look at this model right here, you'll see in the center is the nucleus, and that's the protons and the neutrons, and on the outside we have the electrons. The electrons are in an area of the atom called the electron cloud. The electron cloud is broken into energy levels. You can actually see down here in this diagram, they have the different energy levels kind of in different colors. And the electrons travel around the nucleus in these energy levels. And we'll talk more about that as we go along in another lesson. But what we need to know are electrons have a negative charge. And they travel in the electron cloud outside of the nucleus. And one other thing about electrons that you need to know, electrons do not count in the atomic mass. Now I want you to think about that, and because I'm going to ask you in class, why don't electrons have mass? Why do they not count in the mass of the atom? So that's something I want you to think about. Maybe take some notes on and come back to class with some ideas. And that's our introduction to the atom.